Sharon Pruitt, and I made the mistake this past week of going to the wrong meetings. I went to the planning, I think, and I'm not up on all this here where all the money comes from and where it's going. But what I'm hearing is you're going to put a parking garage somewhere on Woodson, behind the donut shop somewhere. Where at? On the left side of Woodson or the right side of Woodson? You have a apartment back behind there. Then another thing, you're going to, so you're not going to tear down any more businesses in sections 1 through 8 for a new vision of downtown. And then you're going to put in an amphitheater. Where at? That little piece of pie space that you're talking about, unless you're going to buy the apartment on the other side of the street, isn't big enough for an amphitheater and a farmer's market across from Casey's filling station. And then you're going to narrow the lanes down to the traffic from 11 feet to 12 feet and wider sidewalks from 7 feet to 8 feet. On Lamar and Horton, sidewalks wider, medium, somewhere on section 3. And then a farmer's market and amphitheater. I can understand that on that little piece of pie-shaped piece of property there, unless you're going to buy the apartments on the other side of the street. Where is that money coming out to do all of that? And then you're going to color, am I wrong? The cement down Johnson Drive from Lamar down, you're going to color the cement red and it's supposed to look like bricks. Now, where is all the money coming out to do all of that? And plus, you're going to be wanting to put colorful pieces of art of some kind on every corner, going all the way down. Where is all that money coming out to do all of that?
Mike? I could do part of it, but you know, she didn't breathe. She's like me. She just goes.
Let's back up till January. The mayor appointed a downtown visioning committee. February, the downtown visioning committee started brainstorming about how do we bring back what I'll call the Johnson Drive corridor between all and we put together a resolution, took another meeting to discuss the resolution, sort of pared it down to what we thought were important pieces. In April, the downtown visioning committee adopted the resolution. The most important parts of the resolution were we would like to see a city market. We would like Johnson Drive to be 4 lanes. We would like Johnson Drive to be walkable. From that, we took sort of those rough constraints and started as a committee describing what Johnson Drive would look like. The committee is made up of Bob Hartman.
Should I ask where the money's coming from? We understand the process, so answer the question.
Well, does everybody know how we got to this drawing that she's describing?
Where the money's going to come to the project? How much money is it?
Well, right now, we haven't even put...
We haven't voted on anything.
Yeah, we haven't even... We are just at the point of just saying, what should this, or could this look like? Yeah.
There's nothing.
Yeah.
It's not even expended. I mean, it's not even...
It's a plan on paper that we haven't even put dollars next to. And what I was trying to describe is where we were in the process. The process was we were going to take this back to the larger community and say, do you agree with this vision? Is this the right vision for downtown?
No, you're not. You're going to do it yourself. No, it's just something else to complain about. Jesus Christ. It's not even a plan yet.
Down there in Reeves and Johnson Drive where they tore up those little buildings. It's a very small little piece of pie-shaped property that is not big enough for a farmer's market or an amphitheater unless you're planning on buying the
actually
on the other side of that little stream to make one.
Is this part of the KG study?
No.
Actually, it wasn't KU, it was Kansas State, and that's come off of we took that off of the website. And what the Kansas State study was is there's an organization that Mark has called First Suburbs. I'm the Kansas co-chair. There's a Missouri co-chair, and several years ago we'd had UMKC students from their urban planning design studio who wanted to do just sample projects, and they came to our group and asked if there were some cities that would give them the students some suggestions of areas to go look at so they could take what they were learning, their graduate students, and put a plan together on what they thought it could look like. And so we went through that process, and the corner that they looked in was around Dickinson Square, because that was at the time where there were a few people that were discussing, did we want to have a historic district in Mission? And so we kind of picked a district for them to look into. Then Kansas State approached our group with their, I think, Lawrence, were they graduate students or were they undergraduate students?
Graduate.
Okay, so the graduate students, they're in their I knew some of them had already graduated. They came to our group, and they had students that wanted to do the same thing. They wanted to kind of do a sample from different places. And so there was a group that used Mission, and we said, well, here's what we've been working on, and, kind of have at it. This is our downtown area. This is what the community's worked on. And so what they did is they took, all kind of what they'd been learning, and they looked at some of the different processes. They went and took a look at a lot of our minutes and different things, and they came up with a plan. And actually, they really extended it beyond what we'd really thought that they were doing. And I will tell you, Lawrence Andre, who's one of our council members, was kind of wringing his hands, because he's like, Mayor, this isn't anything that, this doesn't follow our community vision particularly. And I said, well, I get that, but they're students, they're going to, kind of do what they're going to do. So they presented an idea that's not going to fly for the city of Mission. And one of our staff members, because these kids put a lot of work in it, thought, well, we'll put it on and say this is what these kids' ideas were for the city of Mission, for that area. And of course, and I don't know where you live, but if you're some of the folks that live just west of City Hall on 61st Street, there are a couple residents that saw it online and were like, oh my gosh, my house is gone. And so, we let them see it. We talked to those residents about it. He talked to his neighbors, and we went ahead and took that off on the website. And because it was really kind of a War of the Worlds type of an event where, it was on, it's not anything that was our plan. This is what the kids did. We went ahead and published it to show what the kids had done, and quite frankly, the response from the residents concurred with what I figured the response was going to be, which is this isn't going to work in our community. And so anyway, so that is not a plan. It's nothing that was contemplated to be a plan.
So 6 homes, wasn't one home approached without selling the property?
Not for that.
Yeah, it was for the bridge across.
It was for the bridge, yeah. But that was different. That was to kind of tie in to go over the creek. But there's also not a plan for what to do with the stormwater between Woodson and Lamar. We've planned up from Woodson East, and then we've worked on Lamar West, but in that section there hasn't been a plan on what to do with that section. And so, at some point we can talk about it, but we're not none of us are in a position to talk about that portion, because we kind of have our hands full working on the rest of the stormwater, which, we've been continuing to take a lot of the businesses out of the stormwater. It has been just a huge undertaking for us, but they were Kansas State. I think they were urban design. It was an urban design studio. Do you know what the name of the class was?
Landscape architecture.
It was landscape architecture. But when I saw how, to be perfectly candid, in Casey's gone, but when we went through this process several years ago, and we had 2 committees. We had a committee that talked about kind of the stormwater fixes, and also a committee that talked about what to do then commercially around some of our stormwater fixes. There was a consultant that was retained by one of the groups that worked with the committees, and they essentially wanted to kind of wipe out our whole downtown and wanted to have us have like 250 feet either side of the creek. And anyway, I just wanted them to go away, because I kept telling them that wasn't going to work for our community, because our community sort of grew in the creek. And so anyway, yes, sir.
I guess 2 questions. You said this could be reversed. It would go lower. Like I just heard you say, once it's on your property bill, then, I mean, once you put it in after the 25th.
Well, that's for 2011.
Yeah, 311.
So after 2011, I mean, in December, are we talking?
Correct.
It cannot be reversed after December, or before that, because.
For 2011.
For 2011. Because I think the mayor's.
So it's on for 2011, no matter what. That's what I was trying to get at earlier.
Right.
And you said it could be reduced down. You're talking about after 2011.
That would be correct.
Okay, we got that straight. Another question, have you talked to Tom Wednesday with their property down, his property down there?
Not in the last week.
Have you talked to him about the utility?
I've talked to Tom about a number of things, and this is part and parcel of it, and he hasn't expressed anything one way or the other to me.
What do you think is going to happen? He's at 66% now. Do you think he's going to get that 75 with businesses knowing, coming in here knowing that they're going to pay an absorbent amount, especially down there? I think he's going to have a hard time. And I did talk to Tom last week too, and he told me he hadn't talked to you. So I think we probably better get that. And you're right, he doesn't have an opinion one way or the other. But he did not talk to you, he said.
I told you I haven't talked to him in the last week, so if you've talked to him, then no.
He has not talked to you about this issue, he told me.
Well, we've talked about a number of things.
But not this one, obviously.
Well, you know, if he's...
Okay, I got a question. I got 50-year investment in Mission, and I got a lot of money invested in the city. And we all realize we need to fix the roads here. So there's three ways. This way, which I was 100% against when I started a few weeks ago. We need to raise the property taxes, which is going to cost even more money than if we do this. The sales taxes are going to get voted in. We might as well just forget about that. I want to know who has an alternate plan of how we can raise this money. Because I don't see one, and just saying to raise the sales tax, that's not a plan. That's not going to work. This is a good plan. I'm actually sorry. It is a fair tax. Because if they raise my property taxes, then AT&T is not going to be paying again. The county's not going to be paying again. This tax goes across to everybody. But I think this is the most equitable plan. If I'm full of crap, you can just tell me I am. But until I see a better plan, just saying to raise the sales tax isn't a plan. Anybody tell me I'm wrong?
I think you're missing the point that this is having a chilling effect on new businesses coming into the city. No,
$100 a month. Is it better than having nice roads up in front of your office?
Someone mentioned that PR is costing bad PR. There's a lot of businesses that are going to say,
Because most of the people talking about it have no idea what they're talking about and how much it's going to cost them. You know, when I first get approached with it, everybody goes, I got 3 driveways, it's $22,000. Well, that's not true.
no, I agree that we need to invest in our insurance. I absolutely agree with that. But I think this tax has a bad stigma that's causing a chilling effect.
Well, how else are we going to raise the money? A property tax? That's going to cost us more than this.
But I just think that this is not the proper way of doing it. I think that this
Well, what is? Okay, how are we going to raise the money?
Sales
I'm
tax.
just asking. How else are we going to raise the money?
Sales tax.
Jay,
Yes, the sales tax going to be voted in.
Come on.
Come on.
There's-
You're going to vote for a half cent sales.
Jay hasn't, this,
Yeah, you don't know if you can get sales tax.
go ahead.
It's a more equitable
Stand up,
tax than
stand
this,
up.
I'll tell you right now.
Just stand up.